Assalamualaikum, good morning, and welcome to our forum discussion. My name is Arif Ishan bin Sobri, and I will be the moderator for today. The topic that will be discussed in this session is painkillers are good for health. Before we go through all of the points that will be elaborated, let us first get to know the panels that will share their opinions and knowledge in this forum discussion. There will be two sides of the coin in this forum. Firstly, Mr. Muhammad Aiman bin Safwan, representing the side that supports the usage of painkillers, and Mr. Afiq Muhaimin bin Rasso Shahrul and Mr. Arif Farhan bin Abdul Rahim, representing those who are against the usage of painkillers. First and foremost, in order to fully understand the subject of this discussion, we must first know the definition of painkillers. Painkillers, or also known as analgesics, are drugs that designed specifically to relieve pain. In the modern era, there are several forms of painkillers available such as tablet, capsule, liquid, injectable, and transdermal patch. In addition, painkillers or analgesics comprise of different categories in accordance with the severity of the pain itself. Based on the definition, painkillers, relative to its name, are helpful to suppress the suffering pain of its users. In spite of that, there are also claims that painkillers may bring more harm than good. What is your take on this, Mr. Afiq?
Hi, Assalamualaikum. In my opinion, I believe that painkillers are not good for health, especially for those who are pregnant. According to the statement that has been brought up by the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administrator, painkiller or NSAIDs, which is non-surgical anti-inflammatory drug to be specific, can cause rare but serious kidney problem in the unborn baby. NSAIDs are drugs that have been used to relieve pain, reduce inflammation, and bring down a high body temperature. NSAIDs include medicines such as ibuprofen, naproxen, diclofenac, and salicylate. This medicine work by blocking the production of certain chemicals in the body.
Interesting fact, Mr. Afiq. Can you explain it to us? How exactly does NSAIDs affect the baby?
For those who are pregnant, consuming NSAIDs constantly after 20 weeks or later can lead the unborn baby to have serious kidney problem. The consequence of kidney problem is it can lead to low level amniotic fluid. Low level of amniotic fluid are a condition known as oligohydramnios. As we know, amniotic fluid is the protective cushion surrounding the unborn baby. This cushion protects the baby from the outside injuries. The amniotic sac provide protection and a constant temperature for the baby to grow in addition to provide the baby fluid so that they can breathe, swallow, and develop their musculoskeletal system. Some cases have been reported to the FDA about the low amniotic fluid levels or the kidney problem in the unborn baby. They are related to the use of NSAIDs during the pregnancy. Among the cases that have been reported to FDA, there are 35 cases reported through 2017. They are really serious.
Thank you for the great explanation, Mr. Afiq. Besides being harmful to the unborn children, are there any more significant side effects of consuming painkillers?
Next, I believe painkillers are not good for health as they can lead to the medication addiction. Most medication addiction are related to the opioids such as morphine, heroin, fentanyl, and oxycodone. Opioids are much powerful than endorphins. According to the article, which is the public and the opioid abuse epidemic, addiction to prescription pain medication is a major problem in the United States. The problem is counted as 53% nationally but does not deem it a national emergency, which is 28% based on Politico HSBH 2017. In addition, medication addiction few people see that addiction prescription pain medication is a major problem, which is 38% in their community, according to PBS Maris 2017. Addiction happens when the individual consume the medication again and again. As they consume them again and again, the body will create the tolerance, and they will need more to feel good again or to reach. Furthermore, addiction also happens due to painkiller is much more accessible than drugs because they can get the painkiller over the counter. People can get or be addicted to the painkiller because the process of consuming is much easier. For example, an individual only needs to swallow rather than find the vein to inject the drugs. and therefore there will be no risk of getting AIDS. Those who are addicted to painkillers didn't have a stigma as they consume illegal drug because consuming painkillers are legal.
Thank you for enlightening the participants and the audience of this forum, Mr. Afiq. Being a prescription drugs, the consumers of painkillers and analgesics must at least have the basic knowledge on how to consume the drugs. Is it true that consuming painkillers with little knowledge will cause problems? Mr. Arif Farhan, what is your view on this matter?
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Thank you, moderator. Yes, being unaware of the risk associated with prescription painkillers or other medication might have negative consequences. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States found that between 1999 and 2010, the number of deaths caused by an overdose of prescription painkillers skyrocketed by 400% among women and 265% among males. This demonstrates that the vast majority of patients who take painkillers do not read the prescription in order to get knowledge about how to take the medication. For instance, it is true that ketum can provide relief from discomfort to persons who are working in excessive amounts. Ketum is useful item to take while working, but at the moment, the vast majority of people are using it incorrectly. Instead of just taking ketum by itself, they are combining it with other medicine or flavors to make it taste better.
Mr. Farhan, based on your knowledge, exactly how easy it is to get a prescription on painkillers from a doctor?
In an editorial, Dr. Sanjay Gupta said it is easier for a doctor to write a prescription than to investigate alternative effective strategies to treat pain. This statement refers to the fact that it is simpler for physicians to issue a prescription. In addition, it is much simpler for patients to just take their prescribed medication rather than look for other options on their own. Both of these practices obviously need to be altered. There are more methods available than taking a painkiller to alleviate a painful condition. For instance, pain alleviation can be achieved by physical therapy. Physical therapists are supposed to teach patients how to be responsible for their own care, as stated by American Physical Therapy Association. In the case of arthritis, therapists instruct patients on how to manage the pain that they experience in their daily life. They, they educate individuals on how to increase their strength and range of motion, as well as how to make informed judgment regarding activities in order to reduce the risk of arthritic flare-ups. But aspirin is by far the most used medication for relieving pain, fever, or cold this day. According to statistics from 2005, around one-fifth of percent in the United States aged 18 and older reported using aspirin either every day or every other day, and the frequency of aspirin usage rose with increasing age. It was claimed that over half of person aged 65 and older use aspirin either every day or every other day.
It seems that aspirin is a widely used painkiller in the US and other countries in the world. But what exactly is aspirin? Would you care to explain the definition and also the usage of aspirin, Mr. Farhan?
The aspirin is the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medication, sometimes known as aspirin, are the earliest members of the class pharmaceutical known as NSAIDs, which is NSAID. If you take them for an extended period of time, not only may they help reduce pain, but they also have the potential to induce internal bleeding in the stomach. This can cause a variety of digestive issues, ranging from mild indigestion to an ulcer in the stomach. If you use a lot of NSAID, it might potentially harm your kidneys. Children should not be given aspirin because of the potential for them to develop a disease known as Rice syndrome, which is inflammation of both the brain and the liver that can be fatal. Because it reduces the risk of blood clots, aspirin is frequently prescribed to patients who are at increased risk of experiencing cardiovascular events such as heart attack or stroke. Taking aspirin on a daily basis can increase the risk of bleeding, which in turn can increase the risk of a certain type of stroke.
Thank you for the detailed explanation on aspirin, Mr. Farhan. Next, I would like to gain more insight on what is ketum, that you have mentioned earlier, and how is it harmful to the society. Ketum is often associated with drugs, addictions, and cause of crimes in Malaysia. What is your opinion on this matter, Mr. Farhan?
Mitragina speciosa is the scientific name for the ketum tree, which is a tropical evergreen and deciduous tree that is endemic to Southeast Asia. As a controlled substance, ketum is subject to provision of the Dangerous Drug Act of 1952, Act 234. The hallucinogenic alkaloid mitragenine is the primary active component of ketum leaves. Under the Poison Act of 1952 and the Poison Psychotropic Substance Regulation of 1989, mitragenine is considered a restricted substance because of its characteristics, which are said to be comparable to those of other illegal and addictive substances like drug. There have been many reported cases of its abuse in recent years, particularly among younger people. This is particularly concerning given that the abuse is most prevalent among younger people. For instance, Ahmad S. was sentenced to 1 year in prison in 2018 after pleading guilty to carrying 1 kilogram of ketum leaf. He is required to serve his sentence until the month of August. It has a long history of usage in traditional medicine, and as a result, people who work in jobs that are physically demanding or repetitive sometimes turn into fan of awareness, improve their moods, or alleviate pain in addition to its other common use. The majority of the time, ketum does not require a prescription. Every single person who uses ketum does so on the recommendation of other individuals who have been using it long than they have. In Malaysia, ketum misuse is possible even without a doctor prescription.
Thank you, Mr. Afiq and Mr. Farhan, on sharing your knowledge and opinions on the negative effects of painkillers. Without further ado, let us continue with the opposing side. Mr. Ayman, after listening to the claims made and facts given by the other panels, what is your take regarding this topic?
All right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. My take regarding this topic is that not all painkillers are bad. We should instead embrace the benefits that it provides and properly strategize its usage for a more controlled environment. Perception is the key for something to be accepted or disregarded from society. As other panel members have presented their points regarding the negative effects of painkillers, I would like to shed another light on painkillers as I believe the benefit will outweigh the cost. Before that, painkiller is a broad term for multiple types of substances. Therefore, I will specify the context to just one type of substance, which is cannabis, or famously known as marijuana, weed, or even ganja. We fear what we don't know, but when it is known, we tend to see it more holistically. In this digital era, the media plays a vital role in influencing the perception of people towards something. However, over the years, the media have always delivered a negative perception towards the usage of cannabis. The media would always portray against the usage of cannabis due to its addictive properties. Movie actors or song artists would always showcase cannabis as a substance to get high. Basically, we have always been exposed to the negative effect of these substances due to numerous research that has been done on the substance. For example, the usage of cannabis during pregnancy is associated with low birth weight, preterm birth, and small for gestational age. However, most of these studies done are questionable. According to a research journal titled Prenatal Marijuana Exposure Effect on Child Depressive Symptoms at 10 Years of Age 2005 by Kimberly A. Gray and her research team, most of the studies conducted to associate harm with cannabis use in pregnancy suffer from methodological weaknesses, including an inability to control for potential confounders, including poverty. Another research that was being published by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists titled Maternal Marijuana Use and Adverse Neonatal Outcomes concluded that Maternal marijuana use during pregnancy is not an independent risk factor for adverse neonatal outcomes after adjusting for confounding factors. Thus, the association between maternal marijuana use and adverse outcomes appears attributable to concomitant tobacco use and other confounding factors. This finding shows that marijuana is not the main culprit, but instead are leaning towards tobacco use and other confounding factors.
That is a bold assumption, Mr. Ayman. Based on what you have stated, are you implying that some research made are not entirely true? If so, what is your justification on that, Mr. Ayman?
The point that I would like to put forward is that multiple research journals does not necessarily mean they have covered the whole aspect of something. Some studies are done without considering other confounders which may lead to incomplete of information given. It's not the researcher's fault, but instead fall onto the irresponsibility from our media that tend to just look at the results of the research without looking at the methodology, limitation, scope of the research, or any other variables that the researchers didn't include when conducting their research that may lead to a totally different outcome. It is, however, normal for the public to be skeptical onto the usage of cannabis, as we have always been exposed by the media towards its negative effect that it had. However, as more and more extensive and thorough research are being done, I believe the findings would convince more and more people into accepting the usage of cannabis due to its benefit that it has on relieving pain. The perfect analogy that I could think of is during the introduction of television back in the 1927. Everyone, including the media, was skeptical that it may have radioactive properties. Some newspaper even reported that it could make you blind. However, as people began to have more and more knowledge regarding the thing, people began to accept it into their life. Today, television is one of the common items in any household.
Beautiful anecdote, Mr. Ayman, and thank you for the marvelous response. I'm pretty sure that the panels and the audience here are well aware on the level of restriction of using herbal medicines such as ketum and marijuana, especially in Malaysia. Do you have any hopes on the status of legislation of them, Mr. Ayman?
Currently, due to our nature strict laws towards drug usage in Malaysia, cannabis is not legal to consume. However, I am optimist as more and more extensive and thorough research are being published. There is a possibility that cannabis would finally be legalized for medical usage in Malaysia. As of today, cannabis usage is legalized in 21 states across America, but has not been legalized at the federal level. The increasing trend of legalization for cannabis usage in medical paint a good picture to cannabis, and others should look into it as a possible substance that could be used that will benefit in the medical setting. The question that I would like the audience to think about is that if substance A, for example, is not suitable for person B, is it rational to disregard its usage completely because of the negative effect it had on person B and person B only? To summarize, I don't agree that we should ignore the possible usage of painkillers entirely just by looking at its negative effect. As more and more research are being published, we could see an uptrend finding onto the benefits that they provide. Stricter regulation, however, are needed upon the prescription of cannabis-based medicine, CBM, to combat the issue of addiction and substance abuse.
Thank you for your explanation and short summary, Mr. Ayman. Therefore, based on the claims and supports given by the panels today, we can conclude that consuming painkillers has its own benefits and risks. Depending on how it is used, one can determine its beneficial traits and the severity of its consequences. This forum is an open discussion, and it is not limited only to the panels, but also the audience of this forum. If there is any question that you would like to ask, please do not hesitate to do so. Thank you.